Hi there everyone, it's Tony Paladin, Managing Partner at LCP Global Sports Consulting Group, and it's been on my mind as to how the value of a sports partnership is determined, and possibly more importantly is who determines the value of a sports partnership. So I'd welcome any engagement on this because it's really something I've been researching and it's on my mind quite a lot. But I think a lot of it boils down to a willing buyer, willing seller type of model. And by that what I mean is that a sports property is going to require a certain amount of investment, both monetary and in energy, in terms of optimizing their performance in terms of rankings and also their social performance in terms of their basic reputation and their social media. On the flip side of that, you're going to have a brand or a company that's budget is effectively predetermined by the marketing allocation, and they're really looking for the best partnership for them to get involved in that's going to really give them what they're looking for in terms of their own brand equity. So kind of taking a bit of step forward with this is, well, part of matchmaking the right deal or the right partnership is really finding what are the wants and the needs of both parties. And often when one is discussing budget, specifically with a sports property in terms of what they require, what they need, what they want, and a brand in terms of what they can afford or are willing to invest, it's sometimes going to become a little bit of a heated negotiation. Sometimes both parties walk away completely happy with the deal, which is amazing. So those are the matches made in heaven. But other times both parties walk away from that initial handshake like not totally convinced and kind of needing to make it work from there. So I think, let's discuss, or let's think about what are certain factors that can be considered and then optimized in determining what is the ideal around the handshake on that agreement. What's going to keep everyone happy, and more importantly, what's going to allow everyone to reach their ultimate goals. So I think one of the big things to consider is, what does a sports property require? Require in terms of being able to give themselves the best shot at performing in terms of basic rankings, so that they are winning, or at least in a final or on a podium. And secondly is, have they got enough to actually invest in their social equity to make sure that they are seen and they are able to uphold their reputation on an international stage. So that figure is quite important. I think as important from a brand or a company's standpoint is that the money and the energy invested into the partnership is one thing, because that effectively goes from one entity to another. So that'll go from the brand to the sports property. So that's the handshake, right? I think this is a bit of a tough one, is that what a lot of brands don't realize is how much activation actually costs. And this is a bit of a sticky point, because often the success of the deal is pretty much determined or heavily reliant on the activation. Now, in terms of what do we mean by activation, it should be fairly obvious. Two entities get together, you've got a brand and a sports property, and it's amazing. We shake hands, we hug, and we do a big launch, and we take lots of photos, and it's cool, and it hits the social media, and everyone's channels are spiking all over the place, and that's great. And then a month down the line, not a whole bunch is happening, and 3 months down the line, the brand's kind of sitting back going, okay, well, we've kind of pumped this money in, what's happening? But maybe the activation wasn't sustainable, and a roadmap wasn't effectively basically planned for the term of the deal of maybe 4 years. And often things get neglected and start falling to pieces after a couple of months. And I think it's at this point when I'm reluctant to maybe use the word return on investment, but maybe the impact of the investment into that partnership gets somewhat lost. So I think it's quite a good thing to consider when actually determining the amount of money specifically that is spent on a partnership is that amount enough or appropriate to be able to uplift the sports property to be able to uphold their part of the deal, i.e. are they able to perform and rank on an international stage, and are they able to basically maintain their reputation, and can they do basic things like actually be able to train effectively full-time and be professional as to what a sports property should be able to do. And I think the second big thing is that once that amount of money is being determined and agreed on, it's vitally important that the activation costs are well considered, and it has to be taken into account that those costs are often more than what you're going to think. And ultimately, from a brand's perspective, is if you have to invest a little bit more in order to get a really, really good activation send-off, then ultimately you're probably going to get over that first milestone of a year and probably sell into a pretty good start to a 4-year and hopefully an 8-year partnership, which we don't see too many of, because they're going to bring it back to lack of strategy and lack of sustainable activation. Anyway, I would absolutely love your comments. This is an interesting one. I don't know if there is or isn't a right answer, but it's something I'm really interested in. And I think if we kind of are able to work out the nuts and the bolts of this, it actually at the end of the day is going to serve all parties and make sure that we actually have more sustainable deals happening. And ultimately, as I always say, we are able to turn those sponsorships into partnerships and ultimately into relationships. And that's what we're here to help you do. Anyway, hope you're all well, and I will chat to you soon. Take care. Cheers.